I want to show you all some stuff about my sawmill. Now, this is the clamp system that came with it right here. Well, maybe I should turn around so you can all see and get the rest of it here. Okay. This is the clamp system that I got that came with the Harbor Freight sawmill. As you can see, it's just a short little run across with the pipe. That's stock. This is the original pipe that came with it. The handle that just slides in, it can adjust up and down with the hand crank. One thing that I found out about this here was trying to pit the big logs. One of the problems that I wanted to address was when I put a bigger log and try to clamp it in, you can see that handle, it's sticking out past that rail, and if I even bring it even back further to get a big log in here, there's just not no room. So I decided to make some modifications. But I wasn't aware of that problem for the big logs when I made this clamp here. And by the way, that clamp holds really good. I have no beef with how that clamp is designed. There's a few things I wanted to change about it. But here's a clamp that we made. Let me spin around here so you get a better view of it. Okay, this clamp here, the bolt up there on top, that all thread, that was about 4 or 5 inches longer, and we had a T-handle, but it was sticking way out long, getting in the way of this rail. So when the sawmill would come rolling on down here, I'd hit that. That was a problem that we had. Now with the design that we put, with the pipes that comes on down here, and this here slips back and forth on here, this bites really good. We're really happy with the way that this bit worked really good. So with that in mind, I wanted to add some more clamps to keep the logs from vibrating when I'm cutting, you know, so I wouldn't have as much problem with cutting with wood. So we'll come on over here and I'll show you a couple of other things that I did. Now I added several of these. Now I made several of these. Well, I think it's 4 of them. I added 4 more cross members here. Now this here, our original design that we came up, I stuck this back here, so when it slid over here it would be a stop, and that would prevent my my bolt up here from getting into the carriage of the sawmill. I did that on purpose, this stop here. It was a bad design. It was a bad idea. So we had to cut this here on off. I'm still leaving it, and it still creates that stop to where the bolt, you know, it stops here, and it, you know, I have more room up here at the top of the rail. I have to crank it in a little bit further, but I'm not sticking way on out. So that part of it's not a bad idea. But just like leverage, when you're trying to move something heavy and you're using leverage, you take a 4x4 and you stick it on in, and you do a teeter-totter to deal with it. Well, this point here, this is not as much leverage as there is right here. You're taking the leverage off when this was on here, and you kick this on in, this point wasn't binding as much because of the leverage that lightened the load because this was extended on out. I couldn't get this to bind in and catch. You know, I'd take it, I'd kick it on in, I'd start cranking the handle tight. I could not get that to catch. So, solution was, cut this off, and now that pressure point is right here. And that allows it to catch, and it works fine. I gotta do some modification on my welding on this here. This ain't straight. I mean, the angles are wrong, and there's some other stuff. Let me point that on out. With this kicking on up like that, this is kind of pointing uphill. So when I start screwing this up tight, it's kind of pushing the log upwards, and that's a bad deal. I tried to get this to where I was pointing on down and tightening it up to these cross members right here, but I did a bad job on that. But going back to this part here, or this part that we cut off, you know, on this side of it, it was crucial that we remove that. However, on this other one that I showed you, where it sticks out on this side of it, that's not as important, because the binding pressure is here, so it's close to right here, and there's not the leverage out here, the lack of leverage. Over here, there's not much pressure on it. And besides, I'm not worried about this thing kicking that way. I want it to be able to slide that way when I'm kicking in. It's this way here that I don't want it to go when I bind this on in. So if y'all make your own log clamps or whatever these things are called, keep that in mind with your upright. You know, keep it really close to your upright. Don't try to extend it out like I did. One more thing that I did was this one over here. That one down there that I told you came factory, well, it goes up way too high. Matter of fact, with it all basically all the way down low for a 22-inch log, that's all the higher you need to go when it's straight up and down. So with this here, I've got to cut this one here down to where it's not going to be any higher than that one. So this member is replaceable. You know, I can take it on out. And I don't need to clamp it in. When you kick the pressure on, it holds. Okay? But when you get to cutting the beams, and you're cutting down to the bottom of the board, you know, it's kind of nice to have a shorter one. So that's why I made these slip where I could adjust, put different ones on in. This is a shorter one. But you can see that's really magnified where this bolt is pointing uphill instead of downhill as I pointed in. And I want it to be pointing that way with the pressure to be leaning back. And another thing, you know, I've been using these clamps where I have to angle them so I don't get these long ones, so I don't get them too high when I'm cutting. I have to angle these way sideways. Well, the more these are angled sideways, the more flex that it has for between the wood and the log. I wish I could get, being that I'm doing all the camera work here myself, I can't do everything. So I'm going to make some more of these so I have different lengths and set these up. That's why I want to clamp in between every single bay, so I can set these straight up and down. That means less distance of metal from top to bottom, the less flex, less apt that the log or the beam or whatever is going to shake back and forth, and the less problems you have. Anyway, thought I'd kind of give you all some pointers on that.